card for the month. Sorry for the shakiness of my phone. I'm just going to pop this up in my holder. Okay. So this one, I think, has a very masculine feel. So it's using the Birch Tree Aspen Dies along with the Mountain Air stamp set. So this is what the piece of paper looks like that you're designing to go behind the birch trees. And then kind of the birch trees become kind of like a partial mask. Isn't that pretty? Okay, let's get started. Okay, so the first thing I have here okay, so trying to keep all the papers are just all white and they're just like all just the touch hair different. So as I'm taking this out of the envelope, the piece of paper that's at the very front of the envelope behind these, that's what's going to go inside the card. So just a regular A2 card size. I'm going to, this one is the biggest. So if you look at it, the biggest sheet of white paper, that's the one that you want to go inside the card base for your writing. So I'm going to put that inside so I don't accidentally color the wrong one. So this is like the usual 4 inches by 5 1/4. Then on the front, I have a piece of starry sky. Now you'll notice that usually I always go down by 1/4 inch. And this one is just, it's really tiny. It's like 1/8 inch. And the reason for that is if I went by 1/4, then the die doesn't fit on this white front sheet of paper. So this one is actually 4 inches and 1/8 by 5 3/8. So it's 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. And usually if you know me, I'm 4 inches by 5 1/4. And that's just to account to the fact that I need to not going down by 1/8 inch instead, just to make sure that, so it's almost going to look like it's almost the same size, but it is 1/8 inch smaller. So from there, again, this one is 1/8 inch. Actually, this one, okay, this is where it becomes complicated. The white one that's on the very front is 1/8 inch smaller than the purple one. So this one is 4 inches by 5 1/4. This one is 1/8 inch smaller than the birch tree one. And the reason that's this one that's colored here with the tree. And the reason that this one is just a tad smaller than here is so that it's easier to line it up. It can't be too small, right? Because or else then you'll see openings. So this one where we're decorating the tree, this one is 3 7/8 by 5 1/8. Okay, so this is the very, very fun part, is decorating this piece here. So I have one where you can kind of follow along if you're following along with me at home. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my Daffodil Delight and one of my blending brushes. I'm going to go tap, 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 tap on the ink. And then in the middle of the paper, or I guess a little bit above middle, I'm going to put a nice yellow sun. Then I'm going to take, now it's very important not to mix up your colors when doing all this. Parakeet Party for the green. Again, tap, tap, tap. And I'm going to start off of a corner and I'm going to do the bottom green. Make it a little bit darker. Okay, again, tap, tap, tap. Again, I always start off the paper so that you don't get a really harsh line all around my sun, blending into the yellow. Then I'm going to grab apparently I have ink pads everywhere tonight. Need my purple. I thought I had it. Where can I see? Oh, here it is. This is the Starry Sky. And go tap, 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 tap. And again, I'm going to start off of the paper, blending around and a little bit into my sun. Now, because I kind of want that sunset to blend in, I'm going to go back again with my yellow. Tap, 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 tap. And then take off a little bit of that really harsh ink. And kind of just blend it a little bit so that kind of, you can see now that yellow kind of blends into the other colors. Okay. Then, where is my gray ink pad? It was here. Oh, it's going to be one of those nights. It's right here. Okay, so now I have my gray granite. I'm going to stamp my mountains. Now I do have an old Stampin' Up magazine underneath my work surface. So for me personally, I find that, especially when I'm using photopolymer stamps, so photopolymer stamps being the ones that are just flat and plastic, that by stamping on top of a magazine, it gives it a little bit of give compared to the red rubber stamps that have the, you can see the foam is already built in. By putting that magazine underneath, it kind of acts, the magazine acts the same as the foam, giving that little bit of give. So you get that really nice clear transfer of the image. So I'm just inked up my mountain range with my gray granite. And I'm going to stamp that just so that the mountain peaks are coming up into the sunset. And then I'm going to take my shaded spruce, which I know I just had. It's right here. And I'm now going to stamp my forest. I kind of like sometimes like to do a second stamp, not re-inking again, but just stamping downwards once to kind of give a little bit of a lighter green, extending the size of my forest. And then in that same stamp set, there's some trees. I'm just going to stamp a couple of those on the closer up version. Okay, so a couple things here so we don't forget. The stamps for the mountain range and all the trees were from the Mountain Air stamp set. And what I already ran through my die set were the birch trees. So that was the Aspen Trees. And that looks like this. So I just took and ran it through on a plain white piece of paper. And that's what I was left with. So it's quite pretty. Okay, so the next thing after that, I'm going to just tell you something about questions I've been getting about the blending brushes. Getting lots of questions about how to clean these. So the honest answer is I'm not. I'm just taking them and I'm honestly just swiping them on paper like this until they come mostly clean. And I'm assigning one of them to each of what I'm calling the rainbow colors. So one to red, one to orange, one to yellow, green, blue, purple. And I think I'm going to differentiate one for pink and one for red, just because there's a bit of, because red is such a strong color. But in all honesty, I don't know if anyone stamped with me last month. Last month I had this in olive green, which is a darker green than the parakeet green. And I didn't ever wash it with water. I just went like this until I got most of that green color out. And I went straight to the parakeet party. And you can see from my parakeet party that none of the green was transferred. So that's what I'm planning on doing, is I'm not worrying about washing or anything, just kind of like doing a dry rub out. Same with the purple. Like once I'm kind of done doing this project, I'm just going to again kind of rub it until there's very little, like this is going to end up staining. Like it's going to end up staining the brush. The other thing I'm thinking I might do for mine, just because I do so many classes and have so many people using stuff, is put a sticker on here saying green. Do you know what I mean? So when people pick it up, that they don't accidentally, think green, but then put it in the yellow. I don't know. That's the only other thing I'm thinking I'm going to do. For storage, I'm just throwing a little, like those cheap baggies just over the ones that, sandwich bag ones that usually typically fold. I'm just like throwing one of those over each of the heads just so that, they don't rub together and transfer color. I'm not sure if they would, but that's just kind of when my thought process is. So I've just been putting those baggies over top and then just like throwing them into a drawer. Um, so kind of easy peasy with that. But I think it does, if it's something you like doing with the blending brushes, then consider like kind of doing that investment into like one into each of the, let's call them color families. The other thing I did on the inside is I put a little bit of that paracrite green in the corner and then again stamped another tree. So if that's something that you like, you can always decorate the inside with a little splash of color that way as well. Okay, so now I have this done and I have my birch trees. Now I did take my light gray granite marker and I just took and put a little bit of, if you kind of look at this, I don't know if you can see it. Now I've kind of put the color, there's some indentations in it, like right. Oh, just a second, I can't see here. There. So it kind of, there's some places where it cut out and then some places where it just like did like a little bit of an emboss. So kind of where it embossed rather than cut out, I'm just taking my gray granite marker and just lightly accentuating those areas. Could do that with like just a pen crayon as well. Now this one that I did on this one, I actually did a little bit more. I took and kind of outlined with my marker kind of all of the um, outlines of the trees. This black here, that was not meant to be there. It accidentally fell face first into some ink, so please forgive that. So it's up to you how much shading you want to do, but I think it definitely adds a little bit of something to do a little bit of, call it like light shading of your birch trees. I don't think it needs to be perfect, and I think actually it looks better when it's more, kind of gives you that imperfect look. Makes it more natural. I'm going to try to do a little bit more quickly just for the sake of video. You definitely want to do, if you want to do this bit of shading, now's the time to do it before you assemble everything. See it compared to the left side to the right side? Definitely. So the left side, I've done that little bit of gray, whereas the right side, I haven't done anything yet. So it just kind of gives it a little bit more depth and kind of taking your marker and kind of putting it in between those openings too. Okay, so as little or as much gray as you wish. I think is the key feature there. And then from there, you want to turn it upside down and put dimensionals on. So this is kind of one of those projects where if you have the mini dimensionals, it's going to work a little bit better. And I kind of say this is more is better because the more that your tree sticks up, the better it's going to look. And you can use large dimensionals in kind of the four corners. When I first tried this, I glued it completely down. I was like, oh, don't like that at all. But when it's kind of lifted up, then you kind of see behind the trees and more of the mountains. It gives you that truly a 3D effect. Put a couple more on over here. Each tree has dimensionals. Okay. Flip that over. Put that over our design, just like so. And then I'm going to take this whole birch trees and your mountains and everything and put it onto the front of the card. Again, it's just a wee bit tinier than that starry sky layer. Okay. Then from there, I have some twine. This twine is called threaded twine. And what I actually did is I actually took and kind of frayed it a little bit at the ends. Kind of like that. Personally, I like that look. Okay. I also have a deckled rectangle in gray granite. I'm just going to stamp that with happy birthday. This is in shaded spruce. But this is a card I think that's very versatile. If you wanted it to be a sympathy card, it could be that, thinking of you, happy anniversary, kind of any of those things. Okay, so then from there, I'm going to take and put a little bit of adhesive on the back here. Adhere my twine. Now, the nice thing about putting that adhesive on is that then you can kind of attach and unattach your twine until you get it right where you want it to go. I kind of had my loop more on the left, then my like little end pieces of my twine more on the right, on the bottom. Then I'm going to flip that over again and put a dimensional in each kind of opposing corner. And pop that on the front. Voila. Mountain range, forest. Very, very masculine, I feel. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this masculine card and that you have a wonderful evening.